Just a few weeks ago, I was nervously refreshing the title cutoff page multiple times a day and fighting for my life in every plus 22 I found myself in. Now, almost without noticing, I have timed 4 23s. Somehow, I went from scrambling my way up the mountain to standing on the 0.1% summit. I am nearly 60 points in front of the current title cutoff with 3 weeks left of the season. But the job is far from done. In fact, reaching the summit was probably the easy part of what I wanted to do this season. I've spent the entire time to now looking upwards, but once I finally had a chance to stop and look back, I've realized that there are still many people looking to climb up below me. When we last left off, I had bottom rerolled to Unholy DK from Rep Paladin and managed to catch up in IO in a mere 8 days. This was totally unexpected and purely done because Shock, our Resto Shaman, had disappeared for 3 weeks, and playing Rep without a Resto Shaman is very, very bad. Over the following weeks, I slowly worked my way through different 21s over time. This was not a flashy process, and in fact, there wasn't even too much to document throughout this. At this stage, I was still very much learning Unholy DK, so a lot of this was purely just learning on the job. I was getting used to the spec and making sure that I could get my rotation in order for when I got into the truly big boy keys. I had dabbled with a few 22s here and there whenever they had showed up in LFG or someone had offered for me to do them. However, at this point, we were pretty much just slowly and silently moving our way up the mountain. Still quite a ways behind the title cutoff at the time. However, I knew that at this point, the change to DK was definitely worth it. It's extremely fun to play. I'm actually very much enjoying this spec even to now, but also it is extremely good in Mythic Plus. The damage output is insane. The survivability is unreal. At this stage, I'm not even entirely sure why I hadn't made the decision to swap earlier. We hit a roadblock in the 22s though. This is where keys are starting to get actually genuinely difficult. A lot of 22s would be considered title level keys, especially ones like Seat and Elgathar. There was a point where I was looking up and thinking that the mountain was actually growing a lot quicker than I could keep up with it. However, out of nowhere, something which should have probably halted my climb actually vaulted me upwards. I got the man flu. For those who don't know what the man flu is, it is effectively a cold which us males will complain about much more than females because apparently we are big sissies. You would think that an entire week off of work, snuffly, sore throat, headaches would put a pin in my grinding for the 0.1% Mythic Plus title, right? It did the opposite. See, the thing with the man flu is that it's not actually that bad. It's just that males complain about it. So I actually felt okay enough to sit up and play video games on my computer. What that meant though was that I pretty much had an entire free week where I was doing nothing but just sitting on the computer and playing World of Warcraft. I got to daytime grind for once. This is where some of the OCE Sherpas of the 0.1% mountain climb come in. This happens every season, but the OCE community is superb at helping other people get up the mountain. Kaz, ISO, and Jelly were the 3 main contenders for peak Sherpa at the time. I proceeded over the course of this week. I don't even have a great deal of footage of it because I was sick and sort of just playing feet up. I managed to push my way all the way up through to Resilient 22s. This included a spectacular 22 Elgathar where I got a juicy little grey pass and timed with 6 seconds to spare at like 2 AM on a Wednesday morning. There are a couple of NA keys mixed into here, a Nexus point where I think I played horrendously in terms of damage because I was on like 450 ping. However, because we didn't die, we still managed to tick it off as well. By the end of this week, I was at Resilient 22. Apparently, the solution to my Mythic Plus problems up until this point was simply that I needed to become medically unfit for employment. I'm starting to see why the 0.1% title is sometimes deemed as a marker of unemployment, to be honest. All the while, the team that I have was regularly doing push sessions. We had a bit of chopping and changing in terms of like who was tanking for us, just because like different people would disappear and come back, and like there was just never a stable lockdown. But there was a core stable group of us that were playing quite regularly. We gotten to the point where we were working our way through 22s quite consistently. However, pushing up into the 23 region was proving to be like really difficult. I think a lot of the problem was that we would time 22s with like 4 minutes to spare and then just almost switch our brains off in 23s. I think that resilient keys have done this, to be honest. In the past, I never found that I had this amount of mental blanks in keys that were score for me. Because when a key wasn't resilient, you always had that sort of underlying pressure of it's gonna brick. Now what I think happens is a party member will get resil, you will sort of farm that key over and over without the pressure of it dropping down, and then when that's reintroduced, all hell breaks loose. However, the one thing is that outside of the push group times, I still play the game quite a lot. A couple of the guys in my group have things like kids and wives that want attention on the weekend. Fortunately for me, I don't have kids, and my wife is very happy to let me play video games most of the time. The moral of this is that I'm normally able to sit online and just like look for keys and join into different groups as time goes on. And oh boy, did that pay off. The first key, I don't have footage of any of the 23s because they all happened randomly out of nowhere. The first was on a Saturday morning. I was just sitting there mid-video editing actually, and saw that Shorus and Raynons, two of OCE's best players, listed up a 23 pit. I joined because they were waiting for their Death Knight for another hour. And despite failing the skip after the second boss, got the first 23 ticked off with 2 minutes to spare. This was a big win. And this sort of shows that like even though you might sit there refreshing LFG for hours, it's still worth doing, because occasionally things like this do happen. But that single 23 has nothing on what was to come. The following weekend, I was doing the same thing. I was sitting on the computer, just AFK in Silvermoon, working on some other stuff on my second monitor, and ISO logged on. Now, ISO plays with one of the higher level OCE groups. They had recently gotten Resil 23s across the group. I sent a whisper and just said, hey, if there's any keys going, I'm happy to come along. And before I knew it, I was invited, and ISO had cobbled together a whole group. There was a running joke in a Discord server that as soon as ISO got Resil 23, it was spread around the community like a plague. I think players like ISO and then Stim, the DK that plays with him, need a statue of them built in the middle of Silvermoon. They go out of their way every season to help other people. And this time, I just so happened to receive the help early on in the season, or early from the end of the season at the very least. Anyway, back to what happened on that day. I got invited, we went and we did a 23 Windrunner Spire. This, I think, took us 2 attempts. The first one was bricked from just a failed skip or something along those lines. The timed one was very, very close, although we tried really, really hard to int. We would have probably timed with like 45 seconds left, and then 2 people died at the end of the final boss. Really big key to get ticked off. For reference, I think the NA title cutoff is likely going to be 3 or 4 23s, most likely 3 23s. And if we were to look at which 23s would be more likely, Pit, MC, and MT are probably the 3 that you would look at as being the easiest. NPX is like a close 4th, but Windrunner is definitely in that region of like timeable, but it's like a harder key. So getting this one ticked off as a 23 is fantastic. We then wandered straight across to 23 Nexus Point and one banged it. Not the cleanest run from me in the sense that I did piss damage, but still 23, number 3, both back to back within 2 hours of each other. I was pretty happy with this day. After this, I was again sitting on my little hill in Silvermoon, And Shorus messaged me and said, hey, do you want 23 Skyreach? We're just going to run it now. I want nothing more in this entire world than that exactly. Turns out they were looking to push up their 23s into 24s before doing a sesh that night. We one-banged 23 Skyreach with some really cool tech that I'd never seen before, where you bug out the golems in the second area. But this key was big for two reasons. A, it put me at 4197, which I think at this point is extremely comfortable for title. If it's not, MT is still on the list as like probably the easiest key that I could tick off at some stage. But on top of that, Skyreach is a key that I don't think most people will need for title. It is a really, really hard key. And the fact that I got the opportunity to play with 4 of OCE's best players, arguably 4 of the best players in like the NA region, was a huge up. So we are standing firmly on top of the mountain. I had some wonderful OCE Sherpas to guide me up there, but we are far from done. As I spoke about at the start of this series, the main focus of this was not to get to the top of the mountain myself. It was to make sure that everyone else got up there with me. So we are now transitioning into helper mode. I am planting my flag at the top of the mountain already. Now it's time to help other people do the same. The primary focus here to start with is going to be 4 people that I have grouped with very regularly across the season. Shock, our healer, is already safe. He plays with another group in America, so he is chilling. He's getting title no matter what at this point. Lysed and Vod, the Evoker and Demon Hunter that you've probably seen in a bajillion clips of mine, they are currently sitting at Resil 22s. So the focal point now is to try and get them the 23s ticked off. This should be they are the closest at this point. They pretty much will need 3 keys. One good session should knock that out. I hope that is what happens. I really hope that we don't cork other 23s like this damn clip here where this thing walked right and MT should be free, and for some reason everything goes wrong every time I look at that key. Next up is Flaws. Flaws is our most recent addition as a tank. He's come on a little bit later in the season, however, is currently sitting at 6 22s with 2 22s left for Resil and then the 23s for title. Definitely a focal point. I really like Flaws. He is a lovely dude, very fun to play with, and I'm very keen to make sure that he gets up to the pinnacle with us. Jed is next up. He tanked for us early in the season, but he is a little bit behind compared to the rest. However, we slogged it out in a 22 seat last night, and I could already see the signs of him picking up things pretty quickly. So we might have a few long sessions with Jed, but I'm very keen for him to get up to the top as well. And then in between all of this, the wider community. I would like to help as many people not just get the 0.1% title, but also the 1% mount. The bird at 1% is sick. It's so nice. And I'm assuming a lot of people are going to want to get up to the point of being able to obtain that. For reference, we're looking at the scores at the moment. I believe title will probably land around the 4180, 4190 mark for NA. The 1%'s a bit of a weird one, but I think 4K would be like extremely safe. But I'm assuming that, say, 3970, which is like 5 or 6 21s, should be good enough. So I am going to be sitting in LFG and messaging people, and I am open to messages for anybody who wants help with this part of the grind. If you all remember too, the Resilient Bounty that I ran about 5 or 6 weeks ago was a big success, but I had mentioned at the time that I wanted to rerun it again, and I think now is probably the perfect time. This will be starting over the weekend. I'll make a dedicated video about it because I don't want to like spoil everything, but I have actually vibe coded an add-on that will track run data so that people don't have to post the runs that they've completed, and it will automatically assign points based on the key levels that people have done. I'm calling it Helping Homies. I kind of like it. I think I want to see if I can prompt it to be used down the track. So stay tuned. Resilient Bounty V2 will be up and running over the weekend. I'll have a dedicated video out showing what the prizes are and what people can do to take part. A massive thank you to my channel supporters. The Joy of Checks, Tobias, Yulem, Is This Real? Obold the Orc, and Willy at the highest tier, as well as everyone else who appears on the end screen. If you'd like to support the channel, you can check out the links in the description or click the join button below the video. I wish you all the best of luck on your final week's grinding. See you all in Azeroth. Until next time, take care.